one podcast, mining the Magic the Gathering subreddits for salt. This is the Howling Salt Mine.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
Welcome back, prospectors, to another episode of the Howling Salt Mine podcast, the podcast where we delve into those salty mines of the Magic the Gathering community, finding the saltiest posts, the salty stories you send us, those salty confessionals that we love to hear, bring them up in our mind cart and share them with you, our listener. As always, I'm your host, Sam, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Mike and Tony. Say hey, guys.
What up?
Hello, everybody.
Tony, you're back, dude. You're back from your fucking musical hiatus.
I know. I was actually going to say you're like a real professional now because you actually got through it. I feel like I'm gone for 4 episodes and now you can complete it.
What does that say about who the problem was, Tony?
Yeah, exactly.
My contract doesn't say anything about like fucking doing the bullshit in the front. You know, that's somebody else. So,
oh man, like your batting average is so good with all of your cues and shit.
But yeah, I have returned.
We'll talk about your shitty musical some other time.
Fuck your face.
Because today we have a guest. That's right. We have our friend Ian, also known as ComedIan MTG, on with us. Hey Ian,
hey,
what's going on?
Thanks for having me, guys. I gotta say, Sam, I've heard your voice in person, but hearing it like directly into my ears is so relaxing. I feel very like at peace.
Well, that's why we have Tony and Mike here to kind of like jar you out of that.
It. Yeah.
Wake up.
Really the grating.
Oh my God.
Oh man, it's already starting off great. Yeah, so Ian, thanks for coming on today. Appreciate you coming into the salt mine with us.
Yeah.
People would probably know you from your YouTube channel. You've got a really successful YouTube channel out there, mostly talking about cEDH. You're also, I think people would mostly agree with me to say you're probably one of the better cEDH players out there, if not one of the best, like maybe top 4 cEDH players. I think people would very comfortably say you were like the top player of 2022, right? Like by tournament placings.
Yeah. So as far as like most top cuts of 2022, I think I did have that accolade. Yeah.
So how many times did you run Selvala in those? Wins? I'm just curious.
Is this green-white Selvala?
Yeah.
Okay. Listen.
The S-tier Selvala.
I have told people that I will take any ridiculous amount of money to sleeve that deck up, and anything less than that, I will never walk into a tournament with that deck. I hate that deck so much that it's like one of my 2 shorts on my channel is just me dunking on that deck. Okay?
Oh man, I'm feeling attacked right now.
That would count as like paying you to throw the tournament, though, right? So that's probably like illegal by rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the boxing thing when they tell you to like go for the punch.
You can't
Absolutely.
rig fights like that.
That's honestly, so like the meme has been like people could give me a piece of toast and I would come in and like the top 16 with it lately. So I really want to just see like that's my deck version of a piece of toast. And it's like if I win with that, I think I'll start accepting nice titles.
I think I might have told you this in person one time when we were hanging out, but your like countdown, your like most recent tier list of cEDH decks has spawned this inside joke in our podcast where anytime Tony talks about Selvala, he says it's S tier because you said it was F tier.
Because it fucking is.
Because you said it was F tier. And we took a screenshot and like sent it to Tony and we were like, Tony, what's up with this? What's going on with your deck, dude?
I think we were talking about that at TJ's. Yeah.
Oh man, it's great.
Look, I've seen so many games go wrong with it too. And the crazy part was like when at last Pun City, there was a guy who was like in the last couple rounds with us, and I was like, oh, hey, look, you are doing some things.
Nice.
And then someone else won the game.
Yeah.
This is bullshit. Don't we have like interview questions or some shit to ask him?
No, let's hang in the space a little longer. Let's play plan this based on.
The plan is just to spend 2 hours dunking on Selvala. I'm so sorry.
This is also one of the decks where it's the top of my custom cards list every time I open up MTG Cardsmith is Selvala the Kingmaker that I had to make as a proxy for Tony.
Oh my god.
Yeah, what episode was that? That's episode the title is called Tony on Trial, where we really dig into this one time where Tony king made Mike with a Selvala deck.
It's a gut reaction.
It was like it cast a pallor over our group for like a few weeks. Like we were devastated. And Tony felt really bad. Anyways, if you're looking for gems to check out, that's a really good one.
That sounds like my next one I'm queuing up for sure.
It's very good. I think that's also the game where, for some reason, we all ended up with like 80 cards in our hands.
For some reason.
Yeah,
for
so
some unexplainable reason.
What deck out of this group could possibly draw everybody a lot of cards?
But Tony just couldn't close it out, and none of us could win with 80 cards in our deck because we all had our interaction packages, and it was just like
shocking.
The most nightmare scenario in a CEDH. Oh god.
Good game. Good game.
Well, Ian, let's jump to the interview portion. So we've got some hard-hitting questions for you. We're really gonna put you to the test here. So our first question we love to ask guests is, what got you into Magic, or how did you get into Magic?
It's a really personal question, but I think I will answer it for your listeners.
We can censor it. We can censor it.
Well, I was kidnapped in this drug ring. No,
oh my God.
No. So I was working my this job at a summer camp where it was like one of those overnight summer camps. You get 1 day off a week, and then you're literally there 6 days a week, 24/7.
Oh yeah.
And one of the other counselors had like a fucking vintage cube, basically. And they were just like, it was in this box. Like, this was before proxies were cool too. So this is straight up like they don't have like the power or whatever, but it's like a legacy, more like cube, right?
Damn.
So some ridiculous cards. And it's like Cube
sleeved?
All-Stars. Yeah. But like,
sometimes at summer camps, it's like,
Sam was hoping for a Rog Dog situation.
Like
there,
right on
like...
the dirt.
I get it. I'm always hoping for a Raw Dog situation, but so I remember just like specifically learning, and this guy's like, "Yeah, you always got to draft a Thran Dynamo," and I was like, "What? You want me to pay $4 million to make 3 moron?" Like, okay, like it's shit like that was happening all the time in this cube, right? But they were just playing it one day, and I was like, all my favorite other people I work with at this camp are all playing this Magic thing, and I was like, I might as well go check it out, right?
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I hadn't played any card games since, I want to say, like the Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh card game when I was like 7. So like it had been a hot fucking minute. Yeah. And I go over there and I start playing, and they like realize I'm like picking it up pretty quick, and I'm like, yeah, this is pretty cool. And I like bought one of those M15 like introduction boxes as soon as I got a day off that weekend. So it was about that time. So my first like set that I like did pre-release for was like Cons of Tarkir, which was very influential because I was like, yo, Prowess is pretty broken though.
So how'd you get into cEDH from there?
Yeah, so flash forward like 5 years. So many people know Braden in the community.
Market mover?
Yeah, before Braden moved to any markets, before Braden worked for SCG. So I was talking with Braden because Braden came into my local store because Braden was moving for work, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And no one at my store played cEDH. Like a couple of people played High Power at the time. And Braden at that time was like this like cEDH prophet who would come in and be like, have you heard the good word about competitive Elder Dragon Highlander? And everyone, like as much as I grew to love Braden and grew to like run a podcast with him at the time, we all fucking hated Braden. And Braden knows this. Like we've all been really clear about this. Like, we've got a lot of love for Braden now. We all were like, we cannot stand the cEDH person coming in here trying to tell us what to do with our fucking cards, right? So I built Fibblethip cEDH because I was like, I'm gonna dunk on the cEDH nerd. And it wasn't even like that big of a deal. I was just like, I'm gonna fucking shitpost in cEDH because I shitpost everywhere else. Let's go for it. And it also like I was playing with this other guy who had like he like had like Najeela that was like 4 cards off cEDH kind of Najeela.
Yeah.
And I was playing like wizard theme, and I was like able to counter some spells and like bounce his creatures at the right time, stuff like that. And he was like, dude, I think you could like hang in these cEDH games. And I was like, sure. So that's when Fibblethip came out, right?
Mhm.
And I was like, yeah, whatever. He's got one eye. Look at him. I'm gonna doomsday pile myself.
This little guy.
I think I like won a game or two, and I was like, yeah, I'm feeling like hot shit. Like then it just like I kept playing. And I was like, oh, there's so many less discussions about power level. There's so many less things I have to worry about with all these things. Yeah. And it was years before I was anyone worth talking about as far as like performing in these things, right? I like won forward in my first couple tournaments. Like I was doing the cEDH cast, which is Braden and I eventually we made that podcast together. And eventually I'd split off, did my own channel, and our time schedules for like work and things were like literally polar opposites. I was working in a school schedule, Braden was working nights, and I was like, we literally can't interact anymore. And I wanted to do my own thing, was starting gameplay, things like that on YouTube. So, eventually all of these things like kind of went together, and it was a very long journey from like me just shit posting with Fibblethip to me actually like putting up results in this format that was like not even like tournaments weren't even really a thing. They were all on cockatrice at the time and stuff like that, right?
Oh, so weird.
Oh my god.
Yeah, like DDM Gaming's first event, which was like the first like big cEDH in-person thing, had 64 players. That was considered an impressive tournament at the time. They were like, what, we got a full 64? Like, holy shit. for like timeline wise, Play to Win came to us at that point. They had not put out a video yet. They came into that tournament and said, we're going to be something big. You guys watch. And they were fucking right. But I remember specifically, it was like, yeah, these guys literally had not put out a video yet. And we were like, okay, random people, nice seeing you.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that is pretty epic.
Was your LGS not to like dox you within any degree of accuracy, but was your LGS the Wiz?
Yes, it was.
So awesome, dude. I used to play at the Wiz too. Yeah, RIP.
Yeah.
I remember when they got their whole collection stolen. It was so fucking heartbreaking.
Oh, that was awful. It was awful.
They just got their collection stolen?
What does that even mean?
Yeah,
someone just
some
like
person broke in at night.
Stole all of their
cards.
Oh
my god.
Damn.
And they had like at the time they had a big glass case. It was like, if you want to steal something, steal this case.
Yeah.
they really fucking did.
Yeah. It was really bad.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I do love that story of like Braden coming in as the cEDH player and everyone being like, fuck you. Because I remember when I first started playing EDH and I heard whispers of cEDH, I'd be like, fucking bullshit, cEDH players, fucking horse shit. And I also didn't know what it was. And someone would like play Blightsteel Colossus and I'd be like, you fucking cEDH player? You're bullshit.
Oh, yeah. well, ironically, I think actually, not to be a jerk, but like I think we actually had more of a problem with Brain than we did the format, if I'm being honest. Grew a lot as a person. Once again, these are all known facts. I'm not just being a jerk to my friend. Like, these are open conversations we had with Braden.
Oh man, that's so funny. Man, one day the three of us will go through that personal growth and we won't be assholes, but not anytime soon.
Oh man, I keep waiting for that day for myself, but here I am.
So our other question is, what makes you salty?
Oh, so I heard this on another episode I was listening to on the way here, and I'm trying to think of like when's the last time I got salty playing Magic, and it was the last Punt City. And I remember it was a qualifier match, right? So the results of this match meant like if I won, I could like draw into the top 16, and if not, I could maybe draw into the top 16, or maybe I was completely out on breakers. And I was so stressed out about the matchup. I was playing Winota. I was going third. I had this hand. Everything's gonna turn into a story with me. Sorry, I'm a theater kid.
No, it's good.
Do it. Please. Like, we were literally just Tony is coming off of the heels of like a musical that he's been doing. For like
it's fair. That's fair.
We're all singers. Like you're in. Yeah. Good
okay.
company.
Cool. But this crazy start. It was like a turn 1 land, Mana Crypt, Ornithopter Paradise, and a 1-drop. Insane stuff from Winota, right? And the Urza player on the play, first position goes turn 1 Island Mana Crypt Trinisphere, and I was just like, Yeah, I have one land, huh? Look at that.
Oh my God.
So I just remember the whole game. I was just like, yeah, okay, cool. Like every time I was passing priority, and I was like, I was such a salty little butt during that whole game. I talked to the player afterwards. I was like, yo, dude, sorry, I don't get like that, but it was a really important match for me. And also, that sucked.
There is a reason effects like that are on the top of the salty card list too. That just blows people away.
So when I was like only playing casual commander, I was like turbo jank player, right? So like I have a deck that's only white border cards. I used to have like a 2-color, 3-color, 5-color deck, which is, I called it that because it would splash blue for one card. It was only green black. It had Golos Arena, which is a land that lets you fight things. So it was just like I used to play really bad decks, right? So then I would play against people who were like doing crazy stuff like that, like playing Armageddon in a casual game. I'm like, why are you here? Why am I here? Whose time are you trying to waste? Like, you're clearly wasting yours and mine. Like, what? So yeah, but I think the saltiness for me definitely comes out a lot more during competitive. King making is like the worst thing, man. It is. And I've done a lot of work to not be a salty player for sure. But those things really do bring it out.
How do you feel about playing into, like, I've seen people king make to play into a draw before. How do you feel about that?
I'm totally okay with that. I call that playing your outs.
See, fuck y'all.
Tony.
Yeah, in a tournament setting. To be clear, if you do that in a pod with your friends,
Tony, we're never playing with time into rounds.
With your friends, Tony, you're a monster.
Oh man.
Oh man, yeah.
Thought I had a friend.
No. Yeah, I think like that salt where you just literally can't do anything for an entire game is like so fucking annoying. Where it's like, why am I even here? Like, I think that is like what gets me the most. And then I get like sulky and like grumpy, and I'm not even really salty anymore. I'm just like. I'm just like a sad sack that's unpleasant.
Yeah, you turn into like Prince Zuko from Avatar, where you're like standing on the mountain and you're like, "You've never held back before. Why now?"
Yeah,
So good.
Oh man, it's so
what
true.
A great
I'm
moment
like,
too.
Oh god.
I do have one more question too for our interview portion. Sometimes we ask something to people of expertise. What would you qualify as like the difference between kind of cEDH salt and casual salt? Because we talk a lot, like people seem to interact with those differently.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you notice like a difference in kind of what gets people going in the formats? Yeah,
absolutely. So like for me, the casual salt is like, you didn't let me do the fun thing, right?
Yeah.
Like I think casual commander, unless you're kind of confused about the, like, I guess the intent of the format, like I think people just want to do their thing at least once. The problem is some people want to win, which is their thing. And it's like, all right, well, like do something stupid instead.
Yeah, my thing is stopping everybody else from doing their thing.
You're a monster. But like, yeah, everybody wants to do their thing once, right? So like that's kind of the like casual commander line, right? But like I've noticed with cEDH, like the salt line is always like just throwing a game away. It's like either making a play where you're like, you punted, how could you do that? Or the one that always gets me is when smart players play stupid. That makes me so mad. I'm like, I expect better of you. And I'm like a disappointed dad in the pod too. I'm always like it was like last Box Masters, I was playing against a friend of mine, and they were like going for it into a Ristic study. They had like a single piece of backup when like two of us had like multiple blue mana open. And I was like,
oh no.
I was like, I remember looking downstairs because we had some friends over too. And I looked downstairs and I was like, they're like, you sounded really salty in that matchup, because I literally was like, I just know that you're better than this. Just like a disappointed dad. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. Yeah, I think we kind of feel the same way. Like the gameplay vibe is definitely, you know, in cEDH, like sometimes we start our casual games and we're fucking salty from like deck selection. Like, you know, like I'll pick a deck and they'll be like, you're gonna play that deck, and I'm like, I asked if you said it was okay, and then I like play my first turn and they're like, oh well, here it starts.
Here we go again.
Like,
Wow.
And then in cEDH, like we'll play cEDH as a palate cleanser to like cool down, you know.
It's the ginger after you've had your sushi for sure.
It
definitely
really
all
is.
fun and games until somebody drops a gilded drake. And they only
true.
take your
Yeah, for
Selvala
sure.
because it's fucking S tier.
Because
Ian.
it's funny.
Who would do this? Who would ever take a Selvala?
Oh man, we do almost every time.
They
The thing is,
only take
it basically means Tony quits. So it's like
Yeah.
really
Drink in
strong.
our
It's a
pod.
strong
2
move.
mana
reads
remove
like
target
player
player.
loses the
exchange
game.
change of Selvala
Game
and Gilded
over.
Drake.
Also, like
Fucking bullshit.
it's a great mana dork, and most of us are
Shut
on
the
like
fuck up, Sam.
and most of us are on
No.
creature lists where we're like,
Yeah.
hey, I could use
I could use a mana. Yeah,
I could
for
use a
sure.
little bit of mana.
Fucking trash.
It's so great.
Anyway,
I think I've had my Thrasios taken twice, and that's it. Love it. Well,
Great.
let's get into it, guys. So if you haven't already guessed from our show, we're going to be talking about salt today and delving into those salty stories that you, our listeners, have sent us.
but Sam, what's salt?
Great question, Tony.
Thank you.
Salt is frustration in the game. It's when you are playing at a high power cEDH competitive tournament and someone makes a misplay and just completely throws the game in someone else's favor.
I really thought you were going to say it's when you're at a
Someone
high
sits
power
out,
cEDH
though.
tournament and someone plays Selvala.
Well, that too.
Like, fuck
Wait,
you.
sorry, you guys just said the same sentence twice.
Yeah, that's a great example, Tony. Thanks for providing that.
Fucking bullshit.
Yeah, and we like to talk about salt because then we figure out what makes us salty, what makes other people salty, and maybe by learning, we will be a little bit salty less ourselves.
That was a great
It
sentence.
hasn't worked
Sam,
yet. It hasn't
Sam,
worked yet.
what is salt?
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
like
frustration in the
chemically.
game. Oh, NaCl.
No, I was just yeah, everything. Thank you so much. That was the definition I was
Sodium
looking for.
chloride.
That makes it all clear.
Well, actually, that's
Great.
table salt, and there's actually a lot of different salts out there. We really want to get into it.
See,
Like
I was gonna
potassium
go.
chloride.
I was just asking again to go with a I missed my cue thing, but y'all had a really good answer going up here. You're like, yes, of course, it's my sodium.
Yeah, we're also all engineers.
Nerds.
So,
Yeah.
Huge nerds.
Oh
yeah.
no,
We're theater kids and engineers. We're like,
that's
It's a potent
statistically the
mix.
worst
The double
combination.
whammy.
yeah,
Statistically the worst for sure.
it is. Yeah.
The data does show if you look at it closely.
See, you say shit like that. You're
Exactly.
engineers.
It's terrible.
Oh man, well, let's get into it. Our first post to us comes from Reddit, and this actually doesn't come from the EDH subreddit. This is a Reddit DM, but this one comes to us from user Feller42. So if you guys see user Feller42 on the subreddits, give them an upvote. You know the drill. Spread that goodwill. And the post says, "Hello, I got a salty story for you. I'm a modern/pioneer player and recently got back into Commander. I built Blanca Furious Friend." Is it really Ferocious Friend?
That can't be it.
Well, you said furious and then said ferocious.
Yeah, but
So I
in,
don't
the,
know
in
which.
the edit, it'll be
You'll be
perfect
right.
though, Tony.
Okay, I forgot.
Yeah, ferocious friend.
Weird. Okay. I built Blanca Ferocious Friend Gruul Storm. It's not cEDH, no Jeweled Lotus, Mana Crypt, and other expensive mana rocks, but it's tuned and can play at a decently high power level. Normally, I play with the same group at my LGS before or after Friday Night Magic, but one Saturday, I decided to go to the shop and play. I see a pot of 3 and ask if I can join the next game. I sit down and start shuffling. They ask who I'm playing, and I show them Blanca. 2 of the players think it's cool and move on and ask about power level. The third, though, he makes a snide comment about Street Fighter cards and how they are ruining Magic. I don't respond and explain what the game plan is in general Rule 0 conversation. We start the game, a few turns go by, a bit of ramp and casting rocks. Turn 3 or 4, I cast Blanca and attack the only player without blockers, the guy who hates Secret Lair cards.
Of course.
He complains again about them, and we move on. A couple more turns go by, and I get a Snake Umbra on Blanca and proceed to storm off, attacking the last player alive to kill with commander damage. The player who didn't like my commander immediately shoves all of his stuff into his backpack and starts yelling, "Wizards should never have made the stupid, overpowered Secret Lair commanders. They ruined Magic forever," and walks out of the store. The other 2 players are just as confused as I am and ask if I want to play some more. No one has seen him at the LGS. Now everyone jokes about Blanca ruining Magic forever.
I was gonna say it tracks that they don't see him because they ruined Magic.
Yeah.
Secret Lair ruined Magic, and now he can't play anymore.
His immersion was broken so powerfully that he could never come back.
Wow.
Planes walked right into the blind eternities, just like, get me out of here.
I felt like I understood the progression of the story, and then they were like, and then that motherfucker disappeared, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, it's one thing to like rage quit like that, which is still pretty bad.
Yeah.
Like let's be honest. Leaving the store, like packing up your stuff in a huff, okay.
Yeah.
Fully leaving the store, like that's another step beyond.
Sure.
Never coming back. That's pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah. He took his high horse and then rode it off into the distance.
He really did. He stuck to his guns on it.
Honestly, it might have been like a shame scoop. Like he left and was just like, oh my God, what have I done? I can never show my face around here. I just yelled about Blanca, ferocious friend.
He got home, he looked in the mirror and he went, no, I've ruined Magic forever.
Yeah.
Fucking broke down existentially.
I was the problem all along.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is like, I don't think I've ever had anybody scoop like this in front of me.
Yeah.
We hear plenty of stories about this. I don't think I've ever actually seen it in real life.
Mm-hmm. I think I've seen anger scoops for sure.
Yeah.
But never. Well, now that I'm thinking about it, I might have seen a scoop and leave. But then they came back next week and they were like, yeah, guys, sorry, I was having a bad day. And I was like, okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, that's a pretty normal response.
Sheepishly walk back in. That's the real thing, right? Like if he wants to ever come back, he either has to wait so long that he's grown a beard and he can't be recognized, or like do the sheepish like, sorry, I had like a really rough time. And like, can I play Magic with you again, please? Like,
honestly, dude, if someone was like, hey, I was having a really bad day, I'd be like,
yeah,
super understandable. Sure. Like that's totally fine. If they were just like, no, that's just my personality. I'd be like, oh, maybe you should leave the store.
Oh, sorry, I don't think you understand. I'm like this.
Yeah.
This is me.
It's just me, just being honest. It's just who I am.
Yeah.
If I see Blanca again, I'm ripping it up.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be great to couch the apology. Sorry, guys, I had a bad day. But also, I do see Street Fighter card, I will flip out. So
it's not like me at all. However, I will repeat this pattern.
It's funny because we mostly play on webcam, and I think like the rage leave spell table has a much lower threshold than what it would actually take for me to like rage scoop, pack up my stuff, get in my vehicle and then drive home, like 30 minutes home, you know?
Yeah. It's less dramatic too. And honestly, is it even worth it at that point? Like you scream Wizards has ruined Magic forever, right? And then you're like, sorry, wait, what was that? The connection broke up a little bit. And they're like, no, you don't get my point. Whatever. Disconnect, right?
Yeah, I mean your bag isn't even on camera, so you're packing up your stuff and people don't even see it. They're like, shuffling, like what is that? Getting some noise from your mic. Is
someone doing laundry in the background?
So what do we think about the salt rating here?
Ooh, yeah, the salt rating on this one to me is extremely high. I'd say this is beyond a full shaker. To never show your face again speaks to a level of either salt or shame that is kind of like branding you for life.
Yeah.
At that point. And to leave that salty legacy behind, like you will never live that down. You really can't go back to the store. I think the grumpy player made the right call to never come back.
Yeah. It's one of those cases too where you think they're probably a pretty enfranchised player if they're upset by like the new thing that's getting added to the game. So it's not like someone was new to the game and then like, oh, actually I'm out. It's like probably a hobby that they've gone in on and are then like, oh, I made one embarrassing comment. I need to just leave forever.
What have I done?
I'm getting married, and so we did a taste testing, and of like one of the food choices, and there was this flank steak, and like I'm like excited, right? You're like ready for it, and then you like take a bite, and you're like, "What did you do?" Like, then you discover that they salted the meat, but then they marinated it in soy sauce.
Oh my God.
And so it's like levels of salt that you can't turn back from, and that's what this feels like to me.
It's
Like,
fucking disgusting, dude.
you can't fucking fix the error of your ways. Like, you just have to move on and do something different.
I like how that story was 90% humble brag about to get married, and then 10% I had a really salty steak one time.
Which is still I had steak. So it's like still borderline humble brag.
You gotta throw it out where you can.
You're like, yeah, I just did a musical and I'm getting married. I'm pretty fucking cool. Also, forget about
I do
Selvala,
play
please.
Selvala though, so it balances out.
All right.
I love that we started this episode saying like, we're so happy Tony's back. We'll have to be nice to him for a little while. And now we're just like,
You're happy I'm back
into
because
him.
this is what we do. This is what makes us good.
I'm starved for it, frankly. I'm starved for it.
Your last episode was so fucking tame without me.
We were also both like very sick after Philly. Like our Philly recap is Mike and I like barely making it through as two zombies.
We were like, oh, I guess we got to talk about what we did.
Anyway, next one.
Shall we move on to another? Wait,
Let's
Ian
do it.
didn't get to say his salt rating.
Yes.
We just steamrolled over him. Like
is there
assholes.
like a finite salt measurement, or is this more like a artistic, like how do you feel salt?
This is completely
It's
arbitrary.
artistic how you feel.
This genuinely feels to me like, I don't know if you guys remember those kids who like assaulted your food with salt, but like when you get a salty thing of fries and then you put more salt on and you're still a kid and you're like, hell yeah, this is such good salt, right? as all kids sound like, right?
I sounded that way.
I bet you did say, well, this like the next level up where even the kid is like, whoa, too much salt for me, guys. Like that's the salt of that player. Honestly.
Yeah. That kid also started chain smoking, apparently. Like,
Oh, hey,
hey, the playground's a tough place. You gotta
a little bit too much salt
relax.
there. Yeah, I like to describe that as, and I think this is an experience that everybody has had at one point or another. I've definitely said this on the show before. Like you get those French fries from McDonald's and they're so salty that after eating all of them, your lips are chapped for some reason.
Yeah.
And you're like,
exactly what you're talking about.
and you're just like in physical pain. You're like, why?
You're starting to wither because it's like absorbing the water in your body.
Like even like sometimes your fingertips hurt. You're like, this is bad.
This can't be right.
I can't escape this image in my head either of this guy finally coming back to the store and everyone's just around with a teacup, right? And the one person who submits this story is just like, wow, it seems like you got pretty furious, friend. And then everyone in the store just like, ah, and this man Shame walks back out and he's never seen from again. Like this, he tries to go back.
Oh my gosh. How long were you sitting on that one, Ian? Since like
at least 2 minutes.
It was perfect.
As soon as one person compared to salt, that's
Yeah, or he comes back in and he's like, I'm gonna play Gandalf now. This is my favorite commander ever.
He's like, you cannot pass. Damn it.
Yeah, like quick soapbox moment about the people who fucking hate on shit like that. Like, I get it. I get that you want your immersion. I get you want it to be like a certain flavor for Magic.
Yeah.
But there will be a secret layer that will fucking break you. And you like for
That
this
happened to me.
person,
Yeah.
they're gonna be like, oh, fucking Pikachu secret layer. Like, I'll take 3. Like,
it's what makes me hate it more. But at the same time, Lord of the Rings is coming, and I am so fucking here for it.
Yeah, like Tony used to be
Not
very
even
anti.
acceptable.
Yeah. I was too. So I keep flip flopping, right? I was like walking down. I'm like, yeah, sure, fuck it. I can be like, hey, Rick Grimes, am I right? And everyone's like, shut up. Fortnite threw me. I was like, all right, I'm gonna clench this up, like try to ignore the Fortnite. The Transformers one I keep going off about, which is I think people are like, I'm tired of people complaining about it. It's just for me, I think it's just how much I actually enjoy that IP.
Yeah.
But for me, the idea of being like, I lost to Megatron, I'm like, fuck everybody. I don't want to talk to any of you guys right now.
I mean, that's the best part about Slicer and cEDH right now.
Oh my God.
I liked it for one
up the
tournament, and then I had to play against it in the top 16, and I was just like, you know what, fuck this.
Yeah. Well, that's why I love Dalsim too, because it's just like, what a fucking random ass like stacks deck that is just like happens to be doing kind of well.
Yeah.
Yeah, all they need is a Thundercat set, and I'll be stockpiling those things in my basement.
Go broke.
If they honestly, if they do a Pokemon set, I'm going bankrupt. If they bring Pokemon Magic, I'm gonna lose a lot of fucking money.
It feels like that's when it's broken. If somehow fucking Pokemon becomes Magic, that actually might be the point at which I'll be like,
have
you know
an energy
what?
mechanic. Come on.
Finally, the energy commander we've been looking for all along is Pikachu.
Yeah. Oh my God.
People would lose their shit if the only available good energy commander was
Gavin Verne is fucking listening right now, Mike. Be careful what you're saying.
Oh, I cannot wait till someone's like, I'm gonna Doomblade your Pikachu. And you're like, what? There's something so horribly.
I'm gonna murder your
Pikachu. Absolutely.
Oh,
look at my board full of Squirtles. You're like Meat Hook Massacre.
Oh no!
It's time to eat the ass meat. Here we go. I think Secret Lair will truly have jumped the shark, not at Pokemon, when there's a Pokemon TCG Secret Lair.
Yeah.
And it's specifically not the Pokemon IP, but the Pokemon TCG IP.
I really want them to get like really stupid with them. Like I want like a Downton Abbey, like just like real dumb shit.
Great.
Or like chess.
Oh my God, people would go fucking crazy for that shit because of the memes, dude.
Queen is busted.
Yeah, what the fuck? If your commander was just Queen, like that'd be amazing.
I'm gonna counter it with Bishop to A5. Like,
oh my God, that'd be actually pretty awesome. Don't listen, Wizards. Don't do this.
Don't do this.
They got their notepad out furiously.
Look, I've never watched Downton Abbey, but if you have the balls to make a Downton Abbey set, I'm gonna buy the fuck out of that.
Just to have it. Well, shall we jump to another question?
Let's get there. Let's make it.
Let's do it. So this one comes to us from one of our listeners, Marcus, and it comes to us via Gmail. And the post title is Sandbagging. And the post says, hello, new listener here, enjoying the stuff so far. Here's something I've struggled with for years. I have a few play groups, and each of them have a player like this. They build decks that very heavily rely on the commander, and they are very powerful and game ending when things go well. However, if the commander is removed, their game is pretty much over. Examples include Neheb the Eternal and Xyrus the Writhing Storm. On one hand, if the commander is left alone, it will take over the game. And on the other, if it's removed, the player will barely be in the game, which leads to salt. I've experienced many situations where I have removal in hand, but I sandbag it and don't cast it, so I don't make them salty and they can play the game. And they usually win in these cases. I've tried to communicate to them that playing commanders like these is risky, but they really like the decks, so what can I do? The salt comes from me either being subjected to a powerful commander I can't do anything about, or being subjected to salt when I do. What do you guys do in these situations? Do you ever sandbag? Thanks, Marcus. Thanks, Marcus.
This is honestly like such a good question.
Yeah, it is.
So first of all, I really enjoy the phrasing of I'm really enjoying the podcast so far. Like you guys are on a thin fucking precipice here. If you put out a bad episode, we're losing Marcus forever.
Yeah, there's room. There's room to go down.
Marcus has you on a thin leash. There's so many commanders I could list with this. There's like Kalia, right? I can think of like 7-mana Omnath. Just like all of these commanders that I can think of that are just like give them a turn or two and it's like, oh, the game's over. But like you want to let the people just do their thing. But then sometimes people are like, oh, I see you've given me an inch, you fools. Like
now I shall run.
I think the example of Xyrus is a really good one because we actually have a Xyrus player in our group, which is Tony. Yeah. Tony's got a Xyrus deck.
And a Neheb, which is kind of cool to know both of these commanders offhand.
Yeah, Nick has Neheb as well.
Should we read either of them?
Yeah, we definitely can.
Great.
Let me just Google Neheb MTG. Just the quickest way to find a card.
Yeah.
Is that cool? Is that cool with you, Mike?
No. Fine, whatever.
So Xyrus the Writhing Storm, it costs 5 mana, 2 generic, 1 green, 1 blue, and 1 red. It's a legendary creature, Snake Leviathan, and a 3/5. It has flying, and it says whenever an opponent draws a card, except the first one they draw in each of their draw steps, create a 1/1 green snake creature token. Whenever Xyrus the Writhing Storm deals combat damage to a player, you and that player each draw that many cards. So you can kind of see what's going on there.
Yeah.
Without any other external card draw, Xyrus itself, you're attacking, your opponent draws 3 cards, you draw 3 cards. Since they drew 3, you get 3 snakes. They probably have other things that draw cards. Maybe you have things that force them to draw cards, like Tony's group huggy Cyrus deck.
Yeah.
And you get a fuck ton of snakes, then you just crush people with them. So it's definitely one of those decks that like snowballs, and it's a linchpin deck.
I also noticed, like, every time I see a deck like this or like Nekasar out in the wild, when talking about casual decks,
Yeah.
for some reason it's every person who owns a real Wheel of Fortune and they put it in their casual deck, and everyone just gets so fucking grumpy about it because they're always like, yes, here are my cEDH wheels, aren't you having fun playing Xyrus? Nah. It's like, you don't realize the casual player plays like a spell a turn, right? So you're like, come on, dog. Like
Yeah, it's so it really is. It's like such a flex. It's like such an overreach with that stuff.
Oh no, I think I've accidentally called out my partner.
And the other one we're reading is Neheb the Eternal. So Neheb the Eternal is 5 mana. It's 3 and 2 red. Legendary creature, Zombie Minotaur Warrior. It's a 4/6, and it has Afflict 3. So whenever this creature becomes blocked, defending player loses 3 life. And then at the beginning of your post-combat main phase, you add 1 red mana to your mana pool for each 1 life your opponents, plural, all of your opponents put together, have lost this turn. Insane deck. Our friend Nick, who's like our 4th pod member when we play regularly, he has a Neheb deck, and it frequently just slaps the fuck out of us so hard. He'll just be like, okay, I'll do this, and now I have like 36 mana, and I'll just, put it in this earthquake, I guess. And we're like, well, I guess we're dead.
I think Neheb, even more than Xyrus, though, is definitely one of those decks that really exemplifies this post of like, if you give them fucking 30 mana, then you're gonna lose. And if you remove Neheb 5 times so they can't cast it, then Nick, the player, does nothing. Just fucking sits there. And like, I think it's a hard thing to do. And I think honestly, it depends on the game. And sometimes I sandbag and sometimes I don't. I do also want to see what other people's shit do. It's like when I know what your shit does, then I stop you
Totally.
frequently.
Yeah, I fucking know.
Yeah.
I know, Tony. That's my reality I live in every week. I'm killing my Alesha every time I cast her.
I don't have to do that as much because you usually don't have lands in that deck, so it's like fine.
Fuck off.
It's kind of one of these things where you only owe someone their deck doing the thing, like kind of one time. Like if you see it once, it's good. After that, even if you actively try to not see it do its thing again, at some point they'll sneak in their timing. They'll do it.
Yeah.
So you can definitely sandbag if you feel like it's been a while since they've had a win, or if like they have maybe lost last game and had an abysmal game or something. But also you can like get political with it. You don't necessarily need to stop them from going off in all cases, but you can be like, hey, if you attack me, I'm going to deal with your shit, whatever it is. It can kind of be like a self-enforced rule on when to sandbag and when not to. It's like, just wait until someone irks you and then you deal with them.
It brings up like one of my least favorite strategies in any casual format, in casual commander, is like attack dog or Voltron strategies, because I find that it does this every time, right? Where you put the person in a scenario where you're like, yes, I've created my commanders a 1-hit kill. Haha, isn't this fun? And everyone's like, yeah, I don't want to fucking die. So I'm going to blow up your thing. And you're going to be like, everyone keeps teaming up on me. And like, I've watched that cycle so many times where everyone's like, oh man, you never let my deck do the thing. It's like, because you said you would literally kill me.
The thing it does is kill me right away.
Yeah, exactly. But I agree with Mike. It's like, I think I would love everybody's deck to do their thing once and then like just never let them do it again, right? But I used to sandbag shit all the time when I was playing Commander, like legitimately a ton, because it was like, this is a person I really like playing with right now. I could be like, this has also actually come up a lot more lately because I don't want to be perceived as like the cEDH player playing casual, right? I will actively like not go for like more like efficient lines because I'm just like, yeah, I could do that, or I could just be like, look at my big spirit. Ooh, it's got 20 power. Wow, that's fun.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you guys are saying. And like, I also think that when you are playing a powerful deck like that, like even like you said, Ian, Voltron and stuff like that, we were kind of laughing while you were saying that because I am like a big Voltron player. I have this like Rafik of the Many deck that I'm super in love with. But there is something that comes with that where if you're going to play a deck that is super linchpinny, your commander's going to get removed. Yeah. When it happens, you need to be like, yep, this is going to happen when I play this deck. Like when I play Rafik and he gets big, someone's probably going to try to remove him. And I should either be prepared to stop it or just be like, it got removed and I'm probably not going to play. Like it's that whole term of a glass cannon, you know, where like sometimes the cannon shatters and sometimes the cannon completely knocks your opponents out of the park and you feel great about yourself. So good, actually.
One of the things that I've enjoyed most in Commander was always playing Commander as a shifting target, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, when they will build, they're like, I want my deck to do the thing. But sometimes they get really focused on like the thing being just winning the game, right? And then they escalate power levels. They end up with high power, which is in my opinion, the worst combination of things. Because you're like, I don't want to try, but I want to try a lot. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want people to fuck with what I'm doing, but I really want to just make everybody else not have a good time.
Yeah, it's half I want to try, but I don't want anyone else to be trying.
Yes, exactly. I like shifting the target in regular Commander, right? Just like the idea of like my deck that I was talking about earlier with the Golos thing was like, it's all about getting the arena out, and then I get to activate arena and tell people to nominate a champion and have our creatures fight and be like a big clown when I'm playing the game. Yeah. Or I had a deck that was like Arjun the Shifting Flame, which is the one that like tucks your hand and draws a new hand every time you cast any spell. One of the things I would do is literally just play it where I would just get draw doublers and get to the point where I would just deck myself. And I thought that was hilarious. I would be like, guys, look at that. I accidentally drew my whole deck. Oops, I did it again. Right. And like, that was part of the fun for me was like, I either draw a payoff that allows me to kill people for drawing cards, or I just literally kill myself. And I thought that was like really fun. And I think that helps with these things is like, you can build really powerful decks that just have a different end goal. Right.
Yeah. Just going back to the question to like answer the question here, like what can you do about this kind of stuff? I think we touched on it a little bit, like let your friends pop off every once in a while. Yeah. Or like you're saying, Ian, show them that there's like a different type of deck building that's maybe like more interesting for the table to play with and more like, you know, kind of more fun and more creative. And it's not all about your commander. I think there's also ways of playing. Tony has a deck like this where it's a linchpin commander, but the commander's never the target, which is really weird. And I'm thinking specifically of your Rafine deck, Tony, where Rafine, you want to remove Rafine, but also there's like this shitty token that just became an 8/8 and it's flying. And you're like, well, that is the problem, but Rafine is enabling it. And it's like, well, what do I really do here? There's just a lot of nuance of that, but it's hard. I definitely do sandbag removal. And I think also some of it is strategic where it's like, well, what if there's a juicier target in 2 turns? Am I going to lose right now? Do I need to remove it? Or is this counterspell just like burning a hole in my pocket or something, you know?
So, I built this mono green landfall deck with Kura, the dragon from the new Kamigawa set that like you either 2 to 3 lands or you make a big spirit. And one thing I noticed, it does the same thing where it's because the deck turbos out lands super fast. So the other day I was playing on Bobby Christine's stream and I had like 20 lands in play for a lot of the game. And I was like, so when I sacked my dude, it was making like 20/20s, right? But it wasn't my commander. So I could keep like playing my commander and use them as a trump blocker and doing all these things. But then I had these big tokens and I was like, oh, look out, it's got a big power, right? But that's like a fun way to go about it where you're not like, okay, but I literally like if they blow up my big token, it's not like I'm completely out of the game. I just play my commander again, maybe play some more lands, you know, have a little fun, right?
But like you can have a linchpin commander, but it's more of like an enabler than it is like the star of the show, you know? And I think that is like a really cool deck building space.
Yeah. I've learned that those decks are better than the just linchpin ones. Yeah. Usually.
They're at least more resilient at the very least.
Yeah. And again, if you're going to play those linchpin commanders, I say embrace it. be like, hey, I'm playing Marisi and I'm going to goad everybody and make them probably kind of angry at me.
Yeah.
And if Marisi gets removed, I'm not allowed to complain. I just have to be like, yep,
that's the key.
That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think there really is a salt rating for this one. It's kind of,
I don't know. I think there might be. Like, I think this is a salty situation. Like when your opponent doesn't have that self-awareness to really know that they're causing this dynamic, because it really is the opponent creating it. They're basically saying like, well, if you remove my shit, I'm going to be grumpy. And if you don't remove my shit, I'm going to beat you. And then you'll be grumpy. And it's like, well, this game has interaction. And you just need to accept that.
Yeah. The salt rating on this is a sliding salt scale for me, right?
Yeah.
Because if your opponent's like, oh man, I just never get to do anything, you're like, yeah, I understand where you're coming from. But if they're a real piss baby about it, like that's a full salt shaker right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You've really attracted my removal even harder at that point too.
Yeah, there's definitely like an amount of like salty bitching that an opponent can give you, where I just don't give a shit. I'm like, next time you play Neheb, I'm fucking removing it too, dude. But if they were like, I just really wanted to, make it happen with Neheb, I'm like, play the deck again. Like, let's play again, shuffle up again. Like, let's see what happens,
And then you remove it anyway.
Yeah. And then I'm like, you thought you were safe? You're in my
between
house.
Being nice and like a blue elemental blast.
Just cast it immediately, bet it. You're just like, boom. Is that what you wanted?
there was actually a period of time in my casual decks where I was, because I there was a period in my life where I was playing mono red so much. I think I had like 20 mono red casually.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
dude.
it's like I really like mono red. And I started playing fucking Pyroblast because people were amping up the power levels in the store, and I was just like, I can't really do anything to interact with this thing, but I swear to God, if you come in with another Cyclotic Rift, guys, I'm not fucking around.
Pyroblast is good. Honestly, like that should be seeing more play in casual. It seems like it's such a cEDH only card, which I think is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Because it is just so versatile.
Well, that's because most of the trash players are in cEDH. Playing blue all the time,
I'm so sorry, Kingmaker. I don't want to hear it from you.
Oh my god, you don't even know me.
but after he listens to that episode, he'll know all he needs.
After he listens, for sure.
All he needs. Oh man, so good. All right. Well, we got another question, and this one is another Reddit DM, and this one comes to us from user Gray Griffin H. So if you guys see user Gray Griffin H around the subreddits, give him an upvote. You know the drill. Spread that goodwill.
Oh, twice an episode?
I know, twice. Next episode, I won't say it at all. So it's a balance.
Wow. Good. Thank God.
And this post is titled, "Am I an accomplice to a war crime?"
Wow.
That's a solid start.
I hope not.
and this one's like pretty buck wild. And the post goes, "We had 8 players at a recent game night, and for the novelty of having everyone at the table, we decided to play Two-Headed Giant."
No. No, you finish this, Sam.
And
you finish this.
Before I keep the story going, I did clarify. I said, wait, is this a 4-way game of Two-Headed Giant with 8 players? And yes, it was.
Wow.
I could list 1,000 ththings I would rather do in my day.
Many of them are painful.
Yeah. And the story goes, another friend and I joked that we should both bring our Blink decks and value the table to death. And we got sorted onto the same team. We bandied about actually doing it, but I said we should not do this to the table, thinking about our combined 20-minute turns as Preston and Brago accrued value. Seeing the teams were somewhat unbalanced, I brought what I thought was my most explosive deck, a Chatterfang combo deck, in hopes that we could have a quick game and break up into 2 pods for a second game. Wow.
Nice.
The wisdom
a hero.
Yeah,
a wise man.
Yeah.
I asked the other player if he thought Brago could go off with a wall of tokens in front of him, and he said it would be no problem. In short, nobody's deck popped off. two of the teams basically misfired, and I drew nothing but removal, which kneecapped Team 3 after they used basic land destruction to burn down my squirrel's nest.
No, come on.
Meanwhile, Brago spun his wheels and just drew a bunch of cards. The game went long, and we had to scoop it up when one of the players had to leave. But Brago said he would have had the game wrapped up. I asked him what he had been digging for the whole time and how he planned to win. And he showed me Agent of Treachery, which he intended to loop with Strionic Resonator, Brago triggers, and his mana rocks. I had been providing cover for his lockout hard control win con this whole time. Do I need to turn myself into the Hague?
Huh. No,
Wow.
no, you need to be put on.
Answer is yes. Fuck that blue bullshit.
Tony,
Maybe.
you fucking you have a blue deck.
Yeah, but it doesn't do that bullshit.
You have a blue deck that steals creatures. You play
It doesn't
Virginia
steal
Soulsinger.
creatures.
I am frustrated.
What
I have
deck
to
are
bring
you
this
even
up
talking
every
about?
fucking episode.
Which deck is this? What blue deck steals creatures?
Tune into episode 4 to hear about this blue deck. Piece of shit.
Nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
Rubinia. Fuck.
Were you seriously?
Yeah, I was like, what deck do I have? This is
Oh my
the only
god!
blue deck I think of is Rafine.
I thought you were doing a fucking bit, dude, and trying to make me
Well,
salty.
I'm like not. I don't play that deck, so I feel like I don't even consider it like in my. I spend money on it, but like I don't play it. Like I put a bunch of shit in it. I've like tuned it up, but I never play it. I'm never
Well,
like thinking, oh, I'm gonna go grab Rubinia. So the only blue
you
deck I
definitely
ever
do,
think of
so.
that I go to grab right now is Rafine, and he doesn't steal shit.
Yeah, or Xyrus,
Yeah,
Yeah, but Xyrus isn't like really blue,
or like
either.
all your blue decks.
yeah.
I don't
Anyways, Tony is
Blue's a
various.
trash color for trash players. They're trying to like
Tony's
change
various
the
lies and war
Brago's
crimes aside.
bullshit. Nobody listened to them. We all know.
I think the only war crime here is the 8-player two-headed.
I
Jolly
was
game.
gonna say that. It's because the
Straight
answer
up.
is yes, you are one of 7 other accomplices who decided to do this heinous thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what is wrong with these people.
It's also like it's like if 8 people got in a room and they were like, we should waterboard ourselves.
Yeah, I actually know somebody who did that.
Tony,
Literally, it's like a high school track thing. I don't fucking know.
that's
like,
hazing. That's hazing.
no, they literally were like, we want to see what it's fucking.
Oh my
like.
I
God.
actually
And
know someone who
waterboarded,
also did
like,
this thing.
The
Oh my
decision was
God.
like, it's I was like, you guys are fucking insane. I'm not saying I did it or agree, but
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, I know people who did it, and it
Just
was
breaking the
voluntary.
Geneva Convention at a fucking
Yeah.
track meet.
Honestly, that's most track meets,
Literally.
bro. I don't think you get it.
Oh man. So yeah, I did DM a little bit back and forth with this person, and they said
Uh-huh.
that the game was like well over 2 hours. And
For sure.
just everybody waiting for something to happen, and
Mhm.
And they got
stuff
to
getting
turn
removed
4.
and nothing happened.
Yeah, I feel like it's the idea is actually okay. Like the concept of like, oh, with two-headed giant, we'll still only have like 4 turns. Like the rotation isn't
Yeah.
that much worse. It's
Yeah.
not like that much slower. Like we'll just be quick about it. But the problem isn't that. It's that you suddenly have 6 players that are ready to remove a threat instead of 3 players that are ready to
Mhm.
remove a threat, which means that
Yeah.
your density of like ability to remove threats versus like threats that are going to get out there, I just think it pans out in a way that means that the scary stuff is not going to get through at any point.
I think what that really means is they just need to run less removal. And then they're fine, right?
Yeah.
Like,
That's it. Yeah.
No, Tony.
Just custom build
What
your
I-
decks
what
for
I've
this one
learned-
new format.
what I've learned from anything from this episode is less removal is more.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
what you
exactly
should
it. Yep.
definitely do in your decks.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should do that.
So I will say the one redeeming factor about this game is that it was not an 8-player free for all, right?
Mhm.
At that point, that is
Yeah.
literally a war crime.
Yeah.
But like a war crime against oneself and deep
Yeah.
patriots around them, right? It's like it's kind of like what you're saying. It's like everyone walks into this room and they're like, hey guys, I know we're at this restaurant. What if we all just stabbed each other with these forks?
Yeah.
Like, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Let's just eat this food that's definitely going to give us food poisoning.
Yeah.
And have a wild night.
And that's why I feel like this player, if anything, sort of deserves a medal. Like walking into this experience, they're like, what can I do to end this? Like, what can I do to make this not happen anymore? Yeah. So if anything, you're the one player that had a bit of sense and everyone else is a bit mad.
Yeah. I mean, truthfully, like that, if you ever find yourself forced into that, that is the move, is to play the combo deck that will just pop off. Like, I used to get forced in college sometimes to play what was it? I think it was like
called it Emperor.
Yeah, we were playing Emperor. And I would just play my combo deck because I was like, I can just burn out the entire table in a single turn, and I'll just activate the combo and slowly burn everyone down, and then the game's over and we can do something else.
So you're saying you like to pub stomp, Sam?
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. What I would do is we'd start the game and I'd lie about my deck power level and what it did. And I'd be like, I'm not showing my commander, and I'd leave it face down. And that's a really good strategy for those of you out there that want to do this. And then when you flip it over, you kind of like, twist your mustache a little bit and get a little, and that's when you go for it.
Honestly, I think I would actually forgive you if I heard that specific. I'm like, this guy's on the level. I get it.
Well, what do we? Are you daring?
There's
Are you
timing
daring
again,
to take my shit?
There's that timing again, Tony. Look at you. Good.
But Sam, what does salt mean?
Yeah. Great question, Ian. Salt is frustration in the game.
Oh my fucking God. What do we think about the salt rating here?
Yeah, I think Ian put it perfectly when he said, I can think of 1,000 things that I would do other than play in this game. Like the actual war crime of the Brago player, it's like, like Brago control decks can be like unpleasant to play against. But not nearly. I would rather play against Brago control decks for a month than play a single 8-person game.
Actually.
It's also one of the most tragic components of this is that you're sitting there with two perfectly good pods and you decide to like ruin it.
People will kill for two perfect pods. You can switch it up. You can take 2 and 2 and mix them all up. And you people were like, let's absolutely. This is you know what? I'm doubling down. There's 2,000 things I would rather do.
It's not like you had 5 or like 6 or 7 and you're like, well, can we make it work or something?
I don't want to do a pot of 5. I don't want to make Jeremy sit out.
I mean, I think the one silver lining is that you did this experiment so no one else has to. Like, hopefully every listener of the Howling Salt Mine can hear this episode and take it to heart that this is not the way to play an 8-person game.
Hopefully every listener of the Howling Salt Mine already knows that they shouldn't do this.
Well, clearly not.
I think we can summarize today's episode into 2 distinct lessons, which is 1, never play an 8-person game of Magic, and 2, never sleeve up Selvala.
I thought you were gonna say Selvala's S-tier. This is bullshit. Future Sam, edit that so that he says Selvala is S-tier.
We've never had such a perfect
can
episode
you just say
summary
S
before.
real quick, just so we have a clean S so that he can edit that in?
F.
That's good enough. He can change that. That's good. Solid. Thank you.
Okay, so that begs the question. Ian, would you rather play an 8-person 2-headed giant game or bring Selvala to a CEDH tournament?
Okay.
You do not have to think at all on this. Come on, you can say it. It's okay.
I think, oh man, I really want to stick it to Tony, but I think I have to fold here. It is not one of the 2000. Like I think it is above the 2000 things. I think I would take Selvala.
At least it's still CEDH, right?
Yeah, right. At the end of the day, I get to play some cEDH in some really heavy air quotes, but it's better than, like, as I mentioned, me and my closest friends getting toothpicks and saying whoever bleeds out first wins, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and think of the content you could make just from that one tournament experience.
Oh, absolutely. I took the worst deck in cEDH and won a tournament with it.
Yeah, exactly. People would lose their shit.
Calling a shot like Babe Ruth, you already won it.
The YouTube thumbnail can just be an arrow of Selvala going from F to to S.
Oh man.
Well,
No,
is it that time?
I think it might be that time. It's that time of the week.
Comes every week. It's the salty card of the week.
Tony, you're not gonna say anything here, dude.
Well, I was gonna, but then I felt I didn't know.
I'm just pausing real quick. At the start of the episode, you were shitting on me for finally getting my cues right. And you have probably missed like almost every cue this episode.
That is untrue.
Also, Mike, you're overreaching a little bit on that segment. It's supposed to be me and Tony being like, oh, like what time of the week is it? And Mike's just like, what time of the week is it? Oh, it's the salty card of the week. And here we go.
Okay, wait. But Sam, what is salt?
Great question, Ian. Salt is frustration in the game. All right, but it is that time of the week. It's the time of the week where we say, Mike, what's the salty card of the week?
The salty card of the week this week
It's the salty card of the week.
Oh, I love when they're short. Yay. The salty card of the week.
Like, I actually was gonna be like, oh, the things you can think.
You're just gonna break into Seussical stuff. Save it for next episode, Tony.
Well, the salty card of the week this week.
The bit is that we interrupt Mike, right?
You got it. You did it.
Yeah, the bit is that we interrupt Mike. Usually with singing
first. That is a guest first. Record. Achievement unlocked. The salty card of the week this week is Force of Will. It is 3 and 2 blue for an instant. Or as it's normally cast, you may pay 1 life and exile a blue card from your hand rather than pay this spell's mana cost, and has counter target spell. So, Tony, how do you feel about this one?
So, as an S-tier Selvala player, this makes me feel very little salt because it's never aimed at me.
What does that say, Tony?
When it is, it's because they can't. Because like I'm like, you know, just popping creatures out or doing whatever my thing is. Like it's usually like
creatures.
No. It's more that like just generally, I feel like I'm not targeted with
it's
it
more
as
like
much.
the cards you're casting aren't worth countering.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's because we already.
Tracker. I've definitely won a bunch of games. That's all.
It's because we
say.
already have Selvala from the Gilded Drake. So like, who cares what you're tutoring?
No, the big brain strategy is to make your deck so bad that people just don't respect you at the table.
But no, in all seriousness, I feel like this card doesn't make me that salty because you have to like lose a card for it. Like there is a cost for it. And I think some people almost forget that. Some people to a point where they don't fucking do it. They just like forcibly your card and then like move on with their lives. I'm like, no, you got it. I was like, okay, what are you fucking exiling for that? Thank you. Yeah. It's like obviously super powerful and like does a lot of good things, but it doesn't really get me that much. I don't hate it that much, but it is blue, so like fuck blue. But like outside of that, that's like the generic, like, you know, staple that on the front of anything. Like if I gotta talk about it, I gotta talk about it. So
okay, Sam, how does this one make you feel?
This card does not make me salty. I think I know why it's on the salty card list, but it doesn't make me salty. It's just a counter spell. But it is like
it's because it says you can't play Magic. That's why it's on the list, right? It says no. It says stop everyone else. I'm blue. You're not allowed to play today.
Cut his mic, folks. That's literally not it at all. It's on the list because it is a signpost of very powerful cards. And if you're playing like the most casual nonsense deck and you play a Mana Crypt and then eventually someone sees a fucking Force of Will, they're going to be like, this fucking cEDH bullshit. And you're bringing your overpowered nonsense in this casual format. And it's like, it's honestly, it is a great card, but it gets so much salt just for the misconception of it. And it doesn't make me salty at all.
Yeah.
And Ian, feel the same?
Yeah. So like, it's in cEDH, first of all, like I obviously would never feel salty about it so forcible because it's like, if anything, it's like, it's really funny. All of the cards in casual that are like the salt inducers for me in cEDH are always the cards that I'm like, look at you, you're the good guy. You're trying to keep everybody from being degenerate and like popping off with all of your storm stuff, right? Like that's the thing that I was like, stacks pieces, like all of those things in cEDH, like those are the good guys, ironically.
Yeah.
But like you're like the Force of Wills, you're like, yeah, you're stopping that person from popping off. Hell yeah. I'm with Sam in the sense of like, if I see someone cast a Force of Will in a casual commander game, I'm always just like, why do you care that much? Like, like I get that we're all here trying to have a game. Like, do you really need to counter a spell that much that you're like, yeah, I'm gonna spend $100 on this counter spell that's like a legacy and staple? Like, who hurt you that you are just like, I need it just in case? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think that tracks super hard. That like in the casual form, like that, and I guess I didn't say that, but it's like if somebody Force of Wills anything I have in a casual game, you fuck yourself. That's my immediate response.
Like you're gonna Force of Will my commander. Like, oh my god, it was like not really that big of a deal. Mike, how does this make you feel? Does this make you salty at all?
I don't think it makes me too salty. I think one of the things that is salt-inducing about this card is probably that Commander is the format a lot of people get introduced to. And I think I've said this about other free spells before, but the first time, like you're taught over and over again as you're playing, like, oh, if a blue player has mana up, like I'm at risk, I shouldn't cast my stuff, and you like get this heuristic, you're feeling good, you're like, okay, I understand this game, and then someone's like, oh, I actually don't need mana, and I still can say you don't get to do anything. I think that gets to people, and I think there are just enough people with large enough collections that just want to play some commander, and they're like, well, I have a force lying around, like why shouldn't I run it? Like
why shouldn't I?
After all, it's mine, it's precious to me.
Right. Well, like that actually brings up a really good point. Like we just had Dominaria Remastered, right? There could easily be somebody who is like, yeah, I just cracked open this really cool new set and there was a Force of Will in it. Hell yeah. And it's like, if the rest of their deck is like Squid Tribal and they're playing a Force of Will, I'm not going to be like, this is a cEDH deck. Like you just played a Leviathan for 8. Like, I think we're okay.
I don't know. Fibblethip's the commander, so I think it's pretty.
Oh, shit. This card brings up something that we actually haven't talked about in a while, and I'm glad that we get the opportunity to talk about it with Ian on here. Something that I feel like pretty passionately about when it comes to EDH and like power balance. And specifically when it comes to like card selection with power balance. And it is that I think everybody should try playing cEDH, because when our group was starting to get into cEDH, it was because we were having this like arms race and we were getting into that high power level where winning was very important. It was hard to define the power level. And some people with very powerful collections were running like insane counterspells that some of us were like, holy shit, I can't do anything about that. And it was this weird thing where like the win cons in some decks were too tight and in others weren't quite there. And when we finally made the jump to cEDH, we took all of those really overpowered and like free and just valuable cards and put them into our cEDH decks. And it freed up these slots in our casual decks for like more creative win cons that are lower power, more interesting interaction that isn't like quite as free. You know, we'll still run the occasional deflecting swat or what have you in like a casual deck, but it just put this divide in our group with like card selection and stuff that was super healthy for how we built decks and for how we play. And that's one of the reasons why I recommend everybody check out cEDH and try it, because you will probably find now you have a home for those super powerful cards that maybe you want to play in casual, and your casual games are just going to be improved by removing those cards from your deck building pool.
And you're also going to realize that cEDH is like super fucking fun to play. I much prefer to play a cEDH game and obviously build a casual deck, but like it's just fucking fun. Like shit's happening and it's turn 1. Like, holy shit.
We love casting spells and you get to cast spells.
And like Shadow Wizard Money Gang.
I mean, there's a reason I've devoted a significant portion of my Magic playing career to that format, right? It's very fun, it's very interactive. Like you're always doing something. You get to do broken stuff, but also still be creative, be a brewer. But yeah, Sam, I think you're 100% correct. As soon as you like started talking about these staples and these high power cards, I had a clear image in my head of where you were going with this story. I completely agree. I think everyone should have a place to play their really broken, powerful cards, right? That's why I play cEDH. I love being able to be like, yeah, I played a turn 2 Nyx Bloom Ancient in my Kinnan deck, and then I made 30 mana the next turn and flipped into like 7 things. And it's like, that still has that casual feel, but also it's busted, and no one at the casual table is going to be like, but he did it.
He like, stomped us.
Yeah, exactly. Which is so funny. I think people would assume, especially because I'm like the cEDH tournament grinder guy now, that I like started out in that space where like I literally never even came close to pub stomping people. I either played hard, janky, garbage Magic. Then someone was like, "Oh, yeah, you should play cEDH." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Like, there's like no in between. Like my wizard theme deck was like the closest thing I got to a cEDH deck because it played some counter spells.
Yeah, like, just a little bit of control, and you're like, "Damn, the power."
Yeah, they were like, "But he's not sequencing like a moron. He should play cEDH." And I was like, "Okay, sure, I'll play Simpleton."
But yeah, like that's the thing. Whenever I hear a play group being like, "Oh, this guy in our group plays Thassa's Oracle," and it's like so fucking frustrating, it's hard to interact with, I'm like, why are you playing Thassa's Oracle in a casual deck?
Right.
Like, put that in your cEDH deck. Like, what are you doing? And I think that is the answer. Like, if you want to be playing Thoracle Consultation, like put that in cEDH, take it out of your casual decks, and you're going to enjoy both formats way more than you currently are.
Mm-hmm. I legitimately do think for a lot of people, it's like, sadly, it's like an ego thing, right?
Yeah, I do too.
There are people who would rather assert their dominance, big fucking air quotes there, on other people who they're like, "Oh yeah, look at my wallet being better than you in this casual game." And then you like challenge them to come play a real cEDH game, and they're like, "Oh no, I don't really want to do that." And it's like, well, what you're doing is you're saying, I would rather make everyone else suffer my influence and waste their time instead of like just go in the people who want to play the dumb stuff like you want to do. And it's like, I'm not saying everyone's like that, but like I have noticed it's a lot of like overcompensating and fragile egos are the people who tend to like really just jump in there with a bunch of high power stuff and like not care what other people are doing.
Yeah. And I think that like also keeps people out of playing cEDH because they're like, well, I think those players seen a cEDH deck, and I got pub stomped because I was playing my precon. It's like, well, you didn't really play cEDH, did you? Because like if I want to play cEDH, I don't want to play against a precon. Like that's not fun.
Yeah, you brought a thumbtack to a gun battle. It's awful.
Like, yeah, because you're like, can you interact? And they're like, I have a 6 mana instant. You're like, yeah, you do, bud. Proud of you.
Before we get too far, Mike, where does this lie on the list? But I want to guess first.
Of course.
I'm going to guess that this is 37th on the list.
It's way too high.
76. Send it.
Ooh, all right.
I'm gonna do, man, I was gonna do around that, Ian. You fucking got me. I'm gonna say like 63.
Yeah.
I think Sam has been studying the list here because he's gotten another one here. It is 52.
Oh, I wasn't that close.
You were closer than everyone else. So
is he?
Maybe. Hard to say, isn't it?
That is higher than I thought, to be honest.
Yeah, that is surprising. I think again, it's that like what the card, it's not what the card does, it's what the card means.
Represents. Yeah.
And it's I think the price point is also a big one. Like we see that a lot with certain cards on the salty list where people are like, it's an $80 card and that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Well, that wraps up the salty card of the week. Thanks for playing.
Well, thanks, Mike. That was a lovely salty card. And thank you to our prospectors out there for tuning into another episode of the Howling Salt Mine podcast. And thank you, Ian, for being our guest today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was a delight. Where can we, if people want more Ian, where can they go?
Well, if you want more Ian, there's a couple of places. Yeah, so if you want to find the channel with the largest tournament focused cEDH channel, you can check out youtube.com/ComedIan MTG. I do a lot of things like top 4 breakdowns, top 16 breakdowns of the big tournaments, talking about a lot of the tier 1 decks in the format, breaking down with deck text, things like that. I have a series called Best Decks Not on the cEDH Decklist Database. I have a bunch of different series like that. I have a series where I will take very popular gameplay channels and I'll break down their games and go through the play lines where things I would do differently, some pivot points, things like that, break down their mulligans. And I also wanted to mention that I provide cEDH coaching. It's a project that I started within the past few months that's been really, really successful. It's been really cool. I've been seeing people I've been coaching making top 4s, top 16s lately. So it's awesome. A really good feeling to have that happen with my coaching recipients. And if you're interested in that, interested in rates, the hourly rates, trying to figure out when to schedule stuff, you can email me at ComedIanMTG@gmail.com. You can hit me up on my Twitter or Discord, anything like that.
Nice. I know what I'm getting Tony for his birthday. Some coaching lessons.
Lesson 1, decks to play.
Do I get to pick the deck, or are you going to tell me not to play the
deck? You can pick it. I would just look at you with a cocked eyebrow the whole time.
Oh man, that is awesome.
And if you also want to find out the person who made the cEDH Winota deck happen, Don Wicker Thrasios, done a lot of work on Kinnan Tivit, a lot of like really cool decks in the format that I'm pretty proud of. You can go to youtube.com/ComedIan MTG, also at ComedIan MTG on Twitter. I really like my Twitter. It's half like horny cEDH jokes and then half tournament reports.
Yeah, we kind of failed to mention that at the top of the show, but you're pretty cracked cEDH brewer. And I mean, I've been playing Don Waker for a super long time and love that deck. So, I mean, if we'll put like your Moxfield link down in the show notes so people can check that out too, because there's some dope shit on there for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's really funny. I was looking at the you can see, I don't know, like 50 something decks on there right now. The unlisted decks, there are 337 decks to tell you how often I'm brewing. Yeah. So that's
how many of those have 100 cards in them though? That's what I want to know. Like, as opposed to like
upsetting amount, really upsetting amount.
Man, that's crazy. I thought I was bad with my like 50 unbuilt decks like that.
And how many of them are just different edits of Selvala? Like half, right?
It must be at least.
Just really trying to crack the brew.
It's 300 Selvala decks. Okay, I'm sorry. I lied. I love it.
Yeah. Oh man, secret Selvala stan, Ian. Well, thanks, Ian. And again, if you guys want to check that out, we will have all of Ian's links in the show notes. And if you want more Howling Salt Mine, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Howling Salt Mine. We have our Extra Salt show, which is our bonus show that we do every month. We also have Stray Grains, which is our short form episode. These kind of smaller, funnier little clips from the show that didn't quite make it in. You'll probably be hearing Ian on some future ones, depending on what makes it into this episode. Oh, we also have a thriving Discord community. Come check it out. It's super, super fun. We're all hanging out in there and having a good time. If you want to have a question or a salty story or a salty confessional featured on a future episode of The Howling Salt Mine, email us at thehowlingsaltmine@gmail.com or DM us on any of our social media. You can check it all out at our link tree. On Twitter, we are Howling Salt Mine, and on Instagram and Reddit, we are The Howling Salt Mine. And lastly, we always have to shout out our amazing podcast artist, JD Burnett, who drew our podcast art for us. If you're ever in Asheville, North Carolina, check out JD, get a tattoo from him. He's a really awesome dude. Well, thanks again, Ian.
Thank you.
And as always, stay salty and don't forget to draw an additional card during your draw step.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
Oh, hey, Lua.
Hi, Ian. Also.
Oh, hey, Ian, too. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Sam.
Okay, bye. Have fun.
Braden was someone who lived in. Oh, we lost Tony.
Tony was like,
he didn't want to.
No, I'm here.
Tony was like, "Fuck Braden."
He's like, I can sense Ian is about to shit on Selvala again. I'm fucking out of here.
my internet's being wonky, so I was trying to save bandwidth.
Fair enough.
Well, do we have time for one more? Mike, has your eye been on the clock? Where are we at?
I think we got time.
Okay, let's fucking hit it.
Otherwise, you'll just have to edit more. So get fucked.
Fuck you, Sam.
He was 11 away. I was 15 away. I just want to say it wasn't that big of a difference.
It's a huge, it's
Cut
a
his mic.
chasm.
Cut
It's a
his mic,
chasm.
everybody.
Cut his mic.
Sam, edit that out.
Close your calculator tab, Tony.
I don't have a tab. I use the calculator on my iPhone.
I really like the idea that it's not you actually just cutting the mic out, but it's Sam just condescendingly being like me whenever Tony talks.
Just editing a long fart sound over Tony.
Getting in legal trouble with Peanuts for using the wah, 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 wah.
Man, if somebody from the Peanuts team is listening to our podcast, fucking
We've made it.
hell yeah. Like, yeah, we fucking made it.
You guys are fucking crazy. Way too much Downton Abbey happening.